I'm Claude Swanson, and I'm a PhD physicist. I did an undergraduate degree in physics at MIT and PhD degree in physics from Princeton University. For the last 15 or 20 years, I've been really interested in the science behind energy healing and how it is that some of the amazing phenomena such as Chinese medicine, things like that, how they work and how we can possibly understand them. I just wrote a book called The Life Force, the Scientific Basis, a big 720-page book looking at all the different energy systems in the body and how we can possibly, in Western scientific terms, understand some of these things. And that really has caused me to look at acupuncture, Chinese medicine, Qigong, how it is that people can do energy healing even at a distance, project energy over thousands of miles, trying to understand those things. What's come out of that is a much deeper understanding of the body, of how life actually works, and a whole new understanding. Things like the aura, which have been mysteries until very recently in Western science, we can now relate to something called torsion, which is a radiation that the Russians discovered several decades ago. So there are discoveries like that that are allowing us for the first time to have a scientific understanding of how energy medicine works. In my research and looking at human energy systems and trying to understand the science behind them, one of the areas that has been interesting to me are the Tesla energy lights. The question is how they operate and how they have benefit for people. There does seem to be some anecdotal evidence that they do bring benefits to people. The question is what the mechanism is. If you go back to Mae Wan Ho's wonderful book, The Rainbow and the Worm, she talks about the body as having many different frequencies, many energy systems in the body where the frequencies combine like different instruments in an orchestra, all operating together. The scientific basis for it you can find in Dr. Roy Glauber's Nobel Prize-winning work, where he shows that that lasers or coherent systems can exist even when there are many, many frequencies all interacting. There's a lot of evidence that the body behaves this way. Fritz-Albert Popp, who pioneered all the German work in biophotons, finds that in our body there's a whole spectrum of frequencies of biophotons over a huge range of frequencies, but the amount of energy at each band, at each frequency, is about the same. And they interact. The energy flows from high frequency to low and back and forth. You see the same in Sergei Sitko's work, that in the acupuncture meridian system of the body, it carries very high frequency millimeter waves throughout the body. They also exist in a spectrum of many frequencies which interact one with the other. They appear to be produced by the DNA of the body. They carry the signals throughout the body that tell us how to grow, how to heal. They carry the holographic blueprint of the body. So when illness happens, it means that that blueprint is missing something. Some aspect in the body is out of balance. Sitko finds that corresponds to a weakness in certain frequencies in the body. What appears to me is that devices like the Tesla energy lights, which are multi-wave oscillators that generate many different frequencies but all in balance with each other, when they are placed next to a person, a living system, our own multi-wave oscillator system that produces the many frequencies that keep our body in balance seems to resonate with the multi-wave oscillator of the Tesla energy lights. It appears that that one of the fundamental principles of life is that we do maintain this blueprint throughout our body that tells the cells in each part of the body how to grow. DNA is identical in the fingernail, in the eyeball, in the hair follicle, in the skin, all throughout the body. The DNA is the same. How does it know to make different proteins in different parts of the body? How does the liver know to make different materials than the pancreas, for example? It's this blueprint of energy signals present in the body that's really responsible for keeping everything in balance and telling the cells how to behave properly. So whenever that energy pattern is out of balance, that's when illness occurs. So it appears to me that it's quite possible that the multi-wave energy that you have in a Tesla system interacts with the body, brings things back into balance. One of the things I focus on in my book is trying to understand the yin and the yang energies of Chinese medicine. What I've found is that the evidence for these two polarities of what we call subtle energy in the West, there's lots of evidence for this kind of energy over thousands of years. Not only do the Chinese and the Hindus have ancient traditions using subtle energy, but in modern times the Russians, starting with Nikolai Kozyrev in the 50s, rediscovered this energy. They call it torsion, but they've developed a very highly sophisticated science of this energy. What you find is that these two polarities, the yin and the yang, work in balance with each other. The yang stimulates, the yin cools off. The two work to bring the body into balance and to restore it to balance when things are out. It appears that in our acupuncture meridian system in the body, these same polarities of yin and yang flow through it, and they act like a push-pull to cool things off if they're too hot, warm things up if they're too cool. It appears to me that multi-wave oscillator systems, when they're properly designed, very probably use some of that same yin-yang principle that so we're not just frequencies that are all staying together and working in balance to keep our body in balance, but if you want to stimulate and give more energy to one particular frequency, then that energy needs to be a yang energy. Conversely, a yin energy cools things off and brings them back, so that you can look at the human system as this sort of a synergistic, synchronous, coherent set of oscillators where things, because of the way they interact, are naturally kept in balance. And of course, when imbalance occurs because of an illness, then some external source, like the Tesla lights, may be helpful in restoring some of the missing energy. One of the big discoveries in biology in the past 50 years is how important the mind is. Our mind plays a very important role in our health. How we think, the thoughts we hold, the energies that we focus on actually communicate directly with the DNA. This has been one of the great discoveries that it's not just the DNA operating mechanically like little machines producing proteins and operating the metabolism of the cells, but and it's not that the programming of their chemical sequences determines everything about our health. What we have discovered in recent years is that there's a downward flow of energy from the mind down into DNA and RNA that could actually change the way DNA behaves, so that even at the cellular level, there's a response to thought and a response to thinking, so that the placebo effect for a long time has been recognized as a very real effect. It's as powerful as many drugs. Many people have been healed just because they believe they've been given some powerful wonder drug, when in fact it was a sugar pill, because the mind is so powerful it can have effects at the cellular level. So I think that's one of the new frontiers in science, is understanding how it is that consciousness plays such a big role in our health and well-being. One aspect of that I've been really interested in is the So the quantum side of healing. 100 years ago, there was a big controversy between Einstein and Niels Bohr back in the days when quantum physics was just being created. And in those days, Niels Bohr said that when you look at an experiment, you have an effect on it. And that's called, it causes the wave function to collapse. That's a way of definitely showing that we interact with physical systems. But in Western science, that paradigm has been pretty much swept under the rug until very recently. Now we're finding that there are some individuals, like the Qigong masters in China, who can use their minds to affect physics experiments thousands of miles away. They can cause things to happen by intention, using the energy of intention and of concentration to send their energy to other locations and cause measurable effects. This is part of the secret of how they're able to do healing. I think the real lesson for all of us is that we all have this power, and we're using it all the time, whether we realize it or not. The way we think about ourselves, about others, about the planet, really does have an effect. You can measure the effect that it has on physical processes. There are experiments that have been done to show that little devices called random event generators, which create quantum noise and measure it, can actually be changed by human thought. We're entering a time where it may be necessary for us to use these basic abilities we all have with our consciousness, to use them together. When we link together in prayer, in meditation, setting our intention in a very firm way, there are experiments that show that it alters the planet, it alters physics measurements around the world. If we want world peace, for example, if we want to heal the climate, we're seeing more and more evidence every year that climate is going out of control. We have upset the balance of nature in many ways, and governments don't seem to be doing too much to fix things. So we may be the last resort as people to do group meditations, to do simultaneous synchronized prayer, things like that, to use our intention and project it out over the planet. We know that it has a beneficial effect if we want it to. So to me, a lot of this recent evidence is just telling us, hey, it's up to us, and let's really work hard at using our intention in the best possible way. And we have enormous power. It's just a matter of recognizing it and using it. Well, one of the real simple experiments I've tried is just as a healer, as someone who wants to send energy to someone else. I've tried standing beside one of the Tesla energy lights and just send energy to someone. I've done remote healing under some training and with friends for over many years. I know it works. The life force energy of the person who's sending the energy plays a very important role in how powerful you can be and how much you can shape and change the energy patterns of other people. So I think this is one really important possible application for the lights, is as an adjunct. There are experiments going on now with people who are sending energy to do healing in Africa and things like that, that are showing very exciting results. So when we talk about intention and about healing the planet, it's very important for us always to, of course, first of all, to send our energy into ourselves, to heal ourselves, and remember that we are responsible for our own health and our own well-being, and in our keeping our own energy patterns clear. But I think that the lights may be a very helpful way to to increase the energy in the system and to make it more effective. As everyone says, we're at a very unusual time, a time in history. We're at a changing of the age, as the Mayans would say, the Mayan calendar. They're not just abstract numbers. There are real shifts going on in belief systems, in technology, in the environment of our planet. There are real changes happening. Technology has grown to such a degree that we can accomplish things that 100 years ago would be considered fantasy. So technological tools have become powerful. The question is how we use them, what we do with them, what decisions we make as far as using these tools in a beneficial way or in a harmful way. We see the rainforests being destroyed. We see the ice caps melting. We see lots of changes going on in the oceans that make us wonder whether we're good shepherds, whether we're good stewards of the planet or not. I mean, to me, what it raises as the question is, it's not about technology. It's about consciousness. It's about our own decision of what we want for the world. That we cannot just continue to take and to exploit in the old pattern of the past. That has reached a limit now where a new kind of model is necessary, where we have to work together, we have to work benevolently and lovingly, both toward each other, to ourselves, and to the planet as a whole. So it's a new kind of energy, it's a new kind of consciousness that we're called upon to bring out. And some of us who grew up in the old Western paradigm, the scientific, technological engineering paradigm, we have to stretch. We have to learn something new. We have to understand how powerful our minds are to heal the world. We have to understand that our hearts have enormous capability of changing those around us, and we can heal. We can move from a paradigm of competition and warfare to one of cooperation and love and building one another, instead of trying to get better than somebody else, richer than somebody else, but to work together, understanding we're all in the same boat, and it's a small boat. So it's a new way of thinking, and it's a new way of feeling. And I feel that some of these technologies that we're talking about today are ways of helping us, because they can help us to have more energy and more health and to feel better in our process. They can help us to access, perhaps in some cases, spiritual guidance that can play an important role in getting us through. But in the end, it's the human soul. It's really our deepest desire for what we want for our children, for the future, that has to be our guide, that to make the right decisions, to grow and to stretch, to aspire to the very best that I think we have in us. So it's an exciting time. We're learning a lot of new things. We are asked to operate in a multi-dimensional way on multiple levels that we didn't have to do in the past. So it's enormous growth. One of the things I try to do in my work is remember that there is higher dimensional guidance. My physics work has shown me that there are other dimensions. There are parallel and higher level forms of information and guidance that play a role in this process, and I think accessing that can also be helpful in making these decisions to get us through these times. There are dramatic, revolutionary discoveries being made. There are amazing people showing up on this planet that are bringing us new knowledge, deeper understanding, new ways of looking at things. So for all of the challenges and all of the things we may be worried about and all the problems that we're facing, there are also wonderful opportunities and wonderful things to learn, ways of advancing each of us spiritually, intellectually, emotionally, to learn to come up to the challenge that we're facing. So I'm very excited by working with the talented people, the inventors, the scientists, the spiritual leaders. It's very, very, it's thrilling really to be in this time, to have a front row seat at one of the most exciting changes and shifts that humanity ever undergoes. We have, in many cases, like the Tesla energy lights and in many other innovations that are showing up now in society, it didn't happen that way. You could say in a way that there's a vague theory that the Chinese medicine have some basic principles, but some of the people who are doing inventing now seem to be, they're inspired. It's all being downloaded. It's coming from somewhere else. It's not coming in a classical cause and effect linear way. They're getting the idea without being even able to give a good explanation for why it's going to work. You know, as a scientist listening to them, I think, you know, you're just making that up. You know, that's not an explanation, you know. And then you come along 5-10 years later, now with some of the understandings of how the energy system of the body works, how these coherent energy systems with the biophotons and things like that, the holograms, etc. We're starting to get now some of the substructure, the scientific backing for some of the basic precepts of energy medicine, but there have been people advocating these things for decades in some cases, without really a firm theoretical understanding, but just intuitive. So that's remarkable to me, and that's what we're seeing more and more of in a way, are really enlightened geniuses who get the ideas. They can't necessarily explain where they got them or why it should work. They just somehow know that it does. And so then the science comes along later. So that's pretty exciting. I mean, in a way, all invention has been like that. You know, it's all been part inspiration, part dream, part, you know, very, very non-linear. Even Niels Bohr, who invented our modern theory of the atom, he got that from a dream. In the dream, he was standing on the sun and he saw planets whirling around him that were tied by strings to the sun, and he was looking at this whole system, and he woke up and he realized that he was being shown the model of the atom. And there are lots and lots of examples like that where inspiration comes first. It's a non-linear, non-logical process that then leads to the science later. So and things have really sped up now, I think, as we go through this shift of consciousness that's happening in the planet. And so we have to be more and more prepared for things happening a different way. I mean, we know that Nikola Tesla, the man who invented our 60-cycle AC system in America, that our power system, our power grid, our generators, our dynamos, and other things as well. He's now acknowledged as being the inventor of radio. You know, but he used to work all the time through dreams and through imagery, and not in a logical way. So this sort of higher dimensional or spiritual content, the subconscious mind, the intuitive part, is playing a bigger and bigger role as time seems to be speeding up. So it's interesting to be in a front row seat watching some of these things become available and trying to understand them. And then once you do appreciate them, oh, well, that really could work. And how did that person ever come up with the idea without that kind of theory? You know, that's remarkable too. So I give you permission to use this for your research and sharing and study purposes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Oh, maybe it really does work. Well, you know.
Hello, I'm Aaron Goldhart. I'm the CEO of TeslaEnergyLights.com. And we've had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Claude Swanson at the ISEAM conference last year, and found that his previews to this book, Life Force, The Scientific Basis, was absolutely compelling. Dr. Swanson has been a wonderful asset to sharing what is really going on behind the scenes from a physicist standpoint. In using his book as a reference, we want all of our clients to have this book. I recommend it. I couldn't put it down for 8 hours after I started reading it. It was just incredible. So I would suggest that if you're considering this book, buy it. It's something that you'll keep forever. It's something that you'll want to reference. It's something you'll want to share. And I wish you well.